Welcome to Business Success Tips, where you learn to make more money in less time and have a lot more fun. My name is Paul Sanneman, and I'm your host. I'm founder of Contractor Staffing Source, where we help contractors build great teams. This morning, I have David Kranker from David Kranker Marketing to talk about digital marketing. So, David, tell me about yourself and why people should trust what you say.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Paul. So I originally started in digital marketing in the legal space. It's a very competitive niche. A lot of lawyers that will spend thousands of dollars on their campaigns. Kind of cut my teeth there, and then left an agency and started my own David Kranker Creative, where I work as a full stack marketer. So the things that you would normally need a full team for, creating images, writing content, optimizing sites, even programming, coding websites, email marketing, all of that I do myself. So I kind of position myself as more of a one-man marketing team, an expert, as opposed to an agency. It's the difference between kind of getting a burger from McDonald's versus getting a burger from a professional chef. So I'm spending a lot of time and effort and attention on all the clients that I have. But while I do everything, search is really my bread and butter. So SEO and paid search would be where I spend most of my time and really specialize.
Okay. I'm going to tell you, every time we drive down the freeway, we always see these injured, call John Doe attorney, right?
Yeah.
Do those actually work? I mean, they must spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on those billboards. You'd know. Do they actually do anything?
That's the thing. A lot of these attorneys, they do pay thousands of dollars for these billboards. They're not tracking it. I mean, you could easily put a call tracking number on those billboards, but a lot of the attorneys that we used to work with and we would talk to, they had no idea whether or not it was working. So we did for one client put call tracking on to one of their billboards, and you do get a few calls, but online is definitely a better return on investment.
I'd say. Well, it sounds like tracking leads is something that contractors have in common with attorneys, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
They don't know what's working. I got this phone call, no idea why I'm getting these leads, but talking to the other day, goes, wow, there's been a super uptick in leads. I have no idea why, but it looks great this last month. But if you don't know what's doing it, you don't know how to increase it, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's been a lot of contractors I work with where I bring them on and they've got Google Analytics set up, but they're not tracking any conversions. So I have to go in there to make sure that's all set up. But yeah, I can't tell you how many times, a client will be talking to me and be like, hey, calls are, we're getting a lot of good calls, and I'm trying to drill down and be like, okay, where are they coming from? Is it primarily from ads? Is it primarily from organic? Where are those qualified leads that are turning into real business for you coming from? And a lot of times they can't tell me. So it's very important.
If you're a contractor, how do you track that?
Yeah, there's a few things that I'll do for clients. The first thing is the call tracking software that I use is CallRail. You can do this for a lot of different software providers, but they have the ability to add a whisper message. So when someone calls in, from a specific source, it'll tell you when you answer the phone, this is a call from your Google Ads campaign, or this is a call from your website. And that way, when you answer the call, you know exactly where it's coming from. But the other thing too is setting up a CRM. So just somewhere where all these leads go, where all the sources are then going in there too. And as long as you are correctly updating and showing like which leads are becoming real paying customers and where that revenue is coming from in the software, we can then know which sources are generating the most revenue.
Yeah. There's HubSpot, there's different CRMs. Do you have a suggestion on, I know HubSpot's not cheap. On what CRM to use for contractors? Do you have any preferences?
Yeah, HubSpot it's pretty expensive. It's a great tool. It's pretty easy to use. Lately, I've been it's marketed more towards agencies, but I really like Go High Level. because it has
Mhm.
everything that HubSpot has for a fraction of the cost. I
We use
mean,
Go High Level here for the same reason, because we run HubSpot and Salesforce and Confusionsoft, right? So like, and we finally just put it all in HubSpot because just, I mean, and because it was not HubSpot, but Go High Level was just easier, and it was like 20% of the cost of the thing, so it's a lot less
oh
expensive.
yeah,
But if you're using Go High Level, you need somebody who knows what the heck they're doing, because it is not easy to use.
yeah, that's true. It does definitely take some setup, and that's something I do help clients with as well. You know, it's something I don't necessarily put on my website as part of my services, a CRM setup, but I've set up so many CRMs for clients, whether it's HubSpot, Zoho, Go High Level at this point, that yeah, I'm pretty proficient in all of them.
Okay, so there's an ongoing debate. There's a couple of questions that come up for me all the time with our small builders is, okay, I got a budget. One, how much of my gross sales should I spend? And let's say it's a remodeling contractor doing 3 million, making maybe 400,000 or 500,000 net. How much should I spend of my gross on marketing? And then when I spend that money, how should I allocate it between SEO and pay-per-click? Maybe you can answer that question.
Yeah, it's a very good question. So I know as kind of a general rule, and you've probably heard this before, in terms of amount to allocate to marketing, general rule, usually they say 5 to 10% of your revenue coming in should spend on marketing. In terms of breakdown between SEO and paid search and how much to even spend, what I do personally, when a new lead comes to me and says, hey, can you help me with marketing? I am looking at a few different things. So for SEO, I am looking at the competitors in the local space where they're competing. I want to see, you know, for the sites we're going up against, how frequently are they updating content, producing new content? How frequently are they earning new quality links to their site? Because I know the cost of, you know, writing a page, writing a blog post. I know the cost, the average cost to build a link to a site. So I need to know, you know, what we need to have in terms of a budget to even effectively compete. If we're producing great content and we're earning links, but our competitors are doing it at a much faster rate, it becomes very hard for me to effectively compete in that space. So I would say, you know, with most clients for SEO, it's, again, it depends on the market, but it can be difficult to do things for under $2,000 a month just because of the volume of content and links that need to be produced. Again, something that I kind of assess on a individual basis. But that's something I always put together. And then for search ads, what I'm looking at there is the questions I always ask, you know, potential new clients. What is your close rate, and how many new you know, clients, or just how much revenue are you looking to earn each month? And we can kind of based on those numbers, back through to figure out how many leads they need each month to hit their goals. And from Google Ads, I will then use their keyword planner, put in all the search terms that I believe are relevant. You know, I'll start at 100% impression share just to see what the total market looks like in their area. And then work my way down and say, hey, at 25% impression share, you know, this is how many clicks I
have. Impression share, how does that work?
Yeah. So yeah, impression share is, you know, just for all of the keywords or the search terms that you're targeting, how frequently are you showing for those? So if it was 100% impression share, you're showing for every search that you wanted to target. If it was 25%, it's 25% of all those search terms that you want to target. So I'm kind of creating those projections, and we can see, hey, at 25% impression share, you know, I project you'll get about 10, 25 leads a month. And, you know, this is with your close rate, this is how many you'd close. This is your estimated revenue. So from there, you can kind of figure out what the client might be comfortable spending in Google Ads. In terms of the breakdown between Google Ads and SEO, usually what I find is, in a lot of cases, especially for new contractors, they start on Google Ads first because it's in many instances not as expensive as doing SEO. It's more of a short-term play, so you can get business in the door immediately. And from there, they'll kind of build up enough of a client base, get enough revenue to be able to start affording SEO. And that's more of a long-term play. We usually say it takes 3 to 6 months to really start seeing your return on investment for SEO services. Of course, you'll start getting leads and things in the door earlier, but usually that's about how long it takes. So in an ideal world, about 50% is allocated to paid search, 50% SEO. But I've also found that, businesses that have been doing SEO for a long time, the return on investment is so high. It's usually one of the highest ROI marketing channels that many of them just shut off paid search entirely. And that's okay. I mean, if you're getting a great ROI, if things are working with organic, I see no issue with it. But it is nice to have those two sources just in case if for whatever reason, maybe there's a Google algorithm update, something that maybe wipes out some of your rankings, you still have a different channel that you're generating business from.
Okay, now what about, let's take a service business like roofing or plumbing, right?
Mhm.
Then there's a remodeling business. So the service business, the sales smaller, but there's a lot more of them, right? Like roofing a lot faster, margins better. And then we've got remodeling, which is not as many, margins not quite as good, but you only need, the average sale maybe 300, 200,000. And then you've got home building where there's, custom homes and the sale may be, $500,000, $1 million, but you get 3 a year. So given those 3 different markets, I'm sure you work in all 3. Do you have any suggestions on how those numbers shift with those different markets?
Yeah, I mean, you raise a good point. It is different. What I've found is that the higher the price point of the service, the lower the conversion rate for ads. So it costs significantly more cost per lead for something like a custom home build as opposed to a simple plumbing job. In those cases, for a lot of the higher ticket items, custom home builders, I found that to get a decent ROI, usually I'm shutting off traditional search ads and I'm switching to local service ads, which is the newer ad format for Google where you're only paying per lead. Just because if you are running traditional search ads where you're paying per click, and especially with something like custom homes, you do tend to get a lot of people that are just browsing. They just want to look at, pictures of the new homes you've built. Maybe they're not ready to convert yet. For whatever reason, it might just be that they don't have the budget yet. They might just be shopping around. So I'd rather pay per call than pay per click in some of those higher end markets. But yeah, it does shift significantly. I would say that, when you get to higher end, like custom home building, it's probably more, instead of being 50-50, you're looking at maybe 15% on ads and then the rest on organic. And something that's higher volume, like plumbing, ads are significantly more successful. So either you can definitely go 50-50.
Now, there's a lot of debate on use of AI these days. I mean, I've heard that, well, Google doesn't like AI because it realizes it's AI and doesn't give it as much credit. Other people say, no, Google likes AI. It's a lot cheaper and faster to do because you can produce a lot more for a lot less money, and it's all about quality and volume of content. So do you have any comments on when and where to use AI for producing content?
Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely a very heated debate on that topic. So we had 2 helpful content updates, one in September and then another one in March. And we did see that a lot of sites that were hit were heavily using AI content. Now, that aside, before I implement anything on client sites, I've got, just some test sites, sandbox sites, I call them, that I kind of have created and purely used for testing, just in case I accidentally use a technique that, might impact client sites negatively. I want to try it on my sandbox site first. So I was using AI for writing before ChatGPT came out. It was actually a tool called Jarvis at the time. It's now Jasper. And the content that I wrote through that tool, the content that I've been writing through ChatGPT, it does rank and it does work. But the caveat is that it's not, none of the articles are 100% AI written. And if you look at Google's quality reader guidelines, which I know people always say, well, Google will say one thing, but their algorithm says something different.
Right.
So the quality reader guidelines do say that AI content is acceptable as long as it's quality content. So what I've found is that when you are producing AI content, if you are injecting your own expertise, and especially using, personal pronouns, so you're saying like, in my opinion, or I believe, or I've found, when you're adding in your own insights in addition to that AI content, which is more general, you can use that to kind of flesh out your initial article, write all the things that, because like, let's say, for instance, you're writing about replacing a GFCI outlet. Right. There's going to be very specific, easy steps that are going to be the same no matter what. And that's something that AI can produce pretty accurately. But if you then inject your own professional tips, hey, I've found in my experience, a lot of people, when they're replacing it, they run into this issue, or this is how I do it that I think would be better. If you're adding in those personal insights, one, that's something that AI can't replicate. So, if we get to the point where everybody's using AI tools, that kind of levels the playing field. Nothing really stands out. If you're creating your own expertise and insights on top of what AI is producing, then you will stand out and you will get that competitive edge. So I look at it as it's a great tool to save time on some of the mundane or redundant. I actually am using it right now on a project where, the client, their website template, it is not set up in a way that it's great for meta descriptions to automatically generate. Google's pulling descriptions in the results that really aren't very clear. So I am going through and updating their site, and it's 826 URLs that I have to update meta descriptions for.
Well,
that's a lot. Yeah.
cool.
So it would take me a lifetime to do that manually. But right now I've got ChatGPT. I've plugged in all the URLs, sending it the URLs. It's writing meta descriptions. Google does not use meta descriptions for ranking. It's purely just for the user. And what they want to see is just that, there's some content on the page that would match what they're looking for. So, ChatGPT quickly summarizing the page, 1-2 sentences. And it's saved me a lot of time.
Okay. Now, when you're using AI, how do you train? Say here, here are the Google guidelines. Here's this, here's that. How do you train AI to write, like, let's say I'm a remodeler, I'm going to do an article on how to choose a remodel, right? I can just put ChatGPT, you're a marketing guy, write me an article on, how to choose a remodel. And it'll write an article. But how do you make it better? How do you actually work with the AI to improve it?
Yeah, there's a few things I've done. So, if you're creating a page that's very similar to something that you've written before, as an example, for a lot of contractors, they're servicing a lot of locations, right? And so they're going to create pages for each location. Like, for instance, you might be serving Lewis, Delaware, and you might also be serving Felton, Delaware. And so you want, a page for Felton, a page for Lewis, and all those pages are going to look somewhat similar. So what I've done is, for something like that, I've written the first one myself, and then I send that to ChatGPT, and I say, this is what I wrote. I'd like you to write something similar for this city. And it's then able to see, what I deem to be high quality and create something similar. So there is still a little bit of manual work there. But the other thing that I've done is instead of telling it, in one prompt, hey, write a blog post about this. If you break it up into multiple prompts, starting with, hey, this is the blog post topic. Can you create an outline for me? So then it'll start with the outline. You can then review the outline, make sure that nothing's missing. You might add in some things. And then you say, all right, now I'd like you to flesh this out and actually write, the entire blog post based on this outline. It's one that you revised. So it's so hopefully very comprehensive. It's not missing anything. And ChatGPT will then go and write it. And from there, at that point, once it's kind of fleshed out, the initial outline, it's written some of those paragraphs under there. That's when I'm then going in and I'm doing my, manual revisions, adding in my own insights, adding in internal links, external links, all of that.
Okay. Now, question, David, can ChatGPT read several blogs that I have written or a book I've written or whatever I've done and then copy my writing style?
It can do that. Yeah. So it's better to do it on the paid version, though they just rolled out on the free tier a limited access to GPT-4. So
Well, so it's $20 a month. Why would you pay for it? It's like free. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not very expensive at all. But yeah, it's so you can send it links. It will be able to actually view all of the content on the pages, the links that you send it, or you could just send it the full. If it's a book, you can just copy and paste the texts from a Google Doc, something like that, and it will then be able to analyze that and write in your style.
You could also do, for example, let's say you did a podcast. You can take the text of the podcast and then copy your style of speaking and write a blog like you do a podcast, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So that's a great use for it too. I've also, it's been great for using it for ads. So I'm, for instance, if you're creating Facebook ads, I will come up with a few ads myself and then send them to ChatGPT, ask it to come up with new ones. And instead of me, spending hours creating multiple variants of ads, in a matter of minutes, I've got, 50 to 60 different ad variants that I can now test and see which one works best. So right. It really helps you scale fast.
Cool. Well, Brian, David, thanks for all this. Now, I'm assuming that your advantage is when people call, they're going to get you, not a sales guy, right? And they're going to talk to you because that's the advantage of being a smaller company. So if people want to talk to you, do this, and they're kind of like a free analysis or, fact-finding thing that you'll work with a client before you work with them?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, coming from the world of legal, I've kind of always treated my business like a lawyer would. So, with a lawyer, they won't take on a case unless they truly believe that they will have success in the case. I think there are definitely a lot of great agencies out there, but I think there are some that, even if they believe they can't help, they'll still take your money.
Right.
So I do a very thorough free initial analysis. It's the kind of thing that the agency I used to work with would have charged thousands of dollars for. I'm doing that all to make sure that I believe that there are areas of either a website or an ad campaign that I truly can improve and see a measurable impact on for my clients. So I'm delivering all of that initially when someone reaches out, again, at no cost. If it's an ad campaign, I would just need like read-only access to their ad accounts to be able to see what's going on. If it's an SEO campaign, I'm able to just use the tools that I have to look into their site's performance and see where there might be some gaps. So okay. I deliver all of that, and whether or not someone decides to use me, they've now got that to be able to improve the site on their own.
David, that's incredibly valuable. So I would say if you're either not happy with your SEO and your marketing budget, or if you don't know whether you think it could do better or not, I would say give David a call, because it's definitely worth another set of eyes to look at you, get a second opinion to find out if you are definitely maximizing what you do. And the good news about David is he will work with you and you won't be talking to the sales guy or 5 guys down from the owner. You'll be talking to the man. So I would definitely give David a call, at least have him look at what you're doing and see if you're spending the money you should.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
How do
Thank
you
you.
get a hold of you, David?
Yeah. So you can either call me directly, 312-931-7803, or you can fill out a form on our website, davidkranker.com. And if you want, you can just skip the form entirely and email me, david@davidkranker.com.
Cool. Okay, thanks, David. I appreciate your time. And anybody spending money on marketing should at least talk to David.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you, Paul.